All right, there you have it. Definitely, we need to add more value to most of our mineral exports at this point. That's the message right there. But now we're pivoting to another conversation. We're going to be looking at the impact or counting the cost there of the Monday sit-at-home order in Southeast Nigeria, how that has, shaped the economy in that region so far. Definitely, it's a vibrant market, especially, hubs like Onitsha, Aba, and the Nnewi. They've experienced reduced commercial activity, supply chain breakdowns, and declining investor confidence. So right about now, we're just going to try and, count the cost and see a way forward for recovery at this point. Joining me to unpack this, we have Sir Chinedu Nwonu, who is the president of the Onitsha Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. Is joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show, sir. Good morning. All right, I think okay, all right, we'll try and get, I think we're trying to sort out the connection there, but definitely looking at, some data we have out at this point, it shows that Southeast Nigeria's economy has taken a heavy hit from the repeated Monday sit-at-home orders. According to SBM Intelligence, the region lost about 7.6 trillion naira between 2021 and 2025. Small businesses alone, if you can put that data up for me, small businesses alone saw about 4.6 trillion naira per year in lost revenue, while the transport sector forfeited up to 13 billion naira every Monday. That's what, the data from SBM Intelligence is showing us, about some of the losses suffered there economically in that region because of this sit-at-home order. Because definitely when, businesses are giving such orders, we see the impact, right there. That has a huge impact on commerce, and it also affects the consumer and consumer confidence, in that region. So looking at that data from SBM Intelligence there, it just, paints a picture of the losses so far for the region. A big 7.6 trillion naira between 2021 and 2025. When you pack those losses, it definitely also impacts taxes. This is monies that would have actually been brought in taxes, tax revenue for the government, there. That's the state government. So we're going to be unpacking all of this once we get his connection sorted. Sir Chinedu Nwonu, I don't know if I have you now.
Yes, you do. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, fantastic. So, looking at that data from SBM Intelligence, it says the region has lost about 7.6 trillion naira between 2021 and 2025, because of these orders. Does this align, with the data, from your chamber?
Well, matter of fact, we think it should ideally be much more because we have not been able to validate some of the numbers, some of the figures that's been thrown out there. Because when you begin to consider the volumes of business, the logistics hub, which Onitsha is, the commercial, the size of the business, the transactions in the banking sector, I would definitely believe that it's much more than what SBM Intelligence has put out there. That's our position as far as Onitsha Chamber of Commerce is concerned. So looking at something over 10, 12 trillion should be a very, very fantastic and a positive guess. That's what we think.
In your opinion, which sectors were hit the hardest?
Well, you look at the logistics, because they're from Onitsha, you can actually get a vehicle going to any part of Nigeria. Then you also look at the banking sector, because when the businesses are shut down, the banks are also shut down. Then you look at fashion and textiles, which is what Onitsha business community is known for. Then you also look at the industry, the factories, which are equally shut down within the space of that period. So we're talking about logistics, talking about the banking, look at industries and fashion and fashion accessories. So these are the most hit within that period.
All right, so definitely at this point we see an easing. Right now, definitely these are big losses. They need to be recovered. In your opinion, what do you think is the plan here to try to recover some of these losses that have been made so far?
Well, matter of fact, the challenge we still have is to get down to the underlying factors. Is it really easy? Because most people are coming out, yes, based on the mandate or directive given by the state government, but there's still fear, there's still tension, and the people are still not sure. So we want to believe that it's going to be sustainable. But once the easing starts, invariably, the business community will get back to what it used to be. That's the feeling we have. People are still watching, they are still listening to the government. But what we keep talking about is for there to be increased level of engagement, conversations, discussions. As far as that continues, then there's assurance that the easing will become sustainable, and before long, we'll get back to the business volumes and transactions that used to be.
And we know Onitsha hosts one of the largest markets in West Africa. What did a lost Monday, look like, really? Help us paint a picture about that.
Well, before I get into that, one of the challenges we keep having as far as the Onitsha Chamber of Commerce is concerned is when we feel that the loss is just about Onitsha or just about Anambra State. It's far beyond that. This is a national tragedy. I mean, the loss is not just limited to this area, because when we talk about logistics, people who ideally should have come to Onitsha or people who should have left Onitsha do not do that. The man in the north who should have brought his cattle or cows to the east for sale does not do that. So it's actually a massive loss, not just in Onitsha. But we are feeling that with the easing, just like I said before, we used to have before now, and segments are coming up. The hospitality industry is also gradually coming up. We see people coming out on Mondays now. The professionals, the fuel stations, the eateries, banks are opening, but very cautious. You understand? So different segments of the economy are gradually opening up as far as Onitsha business community is concerned.
How would you say this, impacted investor confidence? Because there's supposed to be some kind of, new business inflows, into the region, at this time. How do you think this, impacted some of the investors that were looking to come in?
I totally agree with you. Because ordinarily, if the business environment is made possible for people to come in, invariably investors would have that confidence to come and invest in the East as they were. So it impacted negatively. People who ordinarily should have set up businesses in Onitsha, would rather go to neighboring states instead of coming into Anambra State or Southeast as they were. So it actually impacted investors who should have come in. But we still make boasts of the size of business volumes in Onitsha especially, and invariably people have found other ways of doing business, which we keep assuring investors that gradually we're getting back to what we used to be as far as the environment is concerned. And there's a need, for them to have another look in and begin to engage, the organized private sector, the Onitsha Chamber of Commerce, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and so many of these organized private sector associations, for them to have that confidence that they can now get back into conversations and begin to come into invest in the Southeast as it were. So we have this positive mindset that things are going to turn out for the better.
Right, and do you think this somehow maybe push some of the businesses more towards, technology? Did we see any kind of innovation during this time?
Yes, I totally agree, because invariably people had to start looking for other channels to continue in their businesses. In fact, before now, there's nothing like having any business in Onitsha environment on Sundays. But people are beginning to think outside the box, leverage ICT, technology, leverage, working on other days, which they don't usually do before now. Setting up branches or outlets outside of Southeast. So many states, within the southern part of Nigeria has been benefiting, and also the north. So they are leveraging technology much more than it used to be. You have all banks, coming up in the east, selling technology much more than any other product. Making it easy for people to leverage those platforms, to continue with their businesses.
All right, I guess when life gives you lemons, you just find a way to make lemonade at this point. But thank you so much, and definitely we hope for the very best, for that region going forward. Thank you so much, Sir Chinedu Nwonu, who's the president of Onitsha Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime. My pleasure.
Thank you.